when we are working on something, and let's say a notification goes off on our phone, and we chase that shiny object or that Pavlov's dog bell, ultimately it takes the human brain 7 to 12 minutes to get back to the level of focus that you had before that, phone went off. You're responsible for your time, not anyone else.
What are some of the most effective rules that you've seen people implement to specifically eliminate distraction? Because, I really like Dr. Benjamin Hardy's, one of his books, forgot the name of it, but it talks all about environment and how you have to make sure your environment is supportive of the elimination of distractions. So some of the rules that he talked about there were really interesting. So what are some of those rules that you've seen people implement that made huge leaps in their ability to stay focused and concentrated rather than giving in to distraction?
Well, I love it. And first off, a huge shout out to my man, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. In fact, I'm working with Ben Hardy right now, and he's written some great books. When you think about, the gap and the gain, who, not how, 10x is easier than 2x. The Science of Scaling is his latest book, which is sweeping the nation. And really all of these books are really about, creating a better you. And that's where distractions are the number one thing that prevent us from really going further faster and doing what he calls a quantum leap in scaling versus a linear leap that takes a very long time. So the very first thing is environment, right? How are you setting up your office, or how are you setting up your workspace, right? That's number one, because ultimately the environment that you're in will dictate whether people come through your door or whether, you've got your phones and all these notifications and bells going off, right? So that's the first one, is you got to change your environment or set it up to win. Number two is to create what we call the Pomodoro. And the Pomodoro is just a fancy word for setting a timer to get into what we call deep work. So instead of working on 7 or 8 things and multitasking throughout your day, you might set a timer on your phone to do a Pomodoro for 30 minutes. And when you get into that, it's heads down. It's fully focused. There's no getting up to get a cup of water. There's no going to the bathroom. There's no checking emails or, checking Facebook, and certainly no getting up to go see what's in the refrigerator. And I set Pomodoros, and my most successful clients set Pomodoros for 45 minutes and 90 minutes. 45 minutes and 90 minutes, because when your head's down, you can produce 3 times the level of productivity that you would if you were out there trying to work on a whole bunch of things, getting interrupted, looking at your phone, etc. And in fact, there's this great, understanding that there's something called a pattern interrupt, Dev. And so if that means putting your phone on silent, or that means putting your phone in a drawer or putting it on airplane mode, you do whatever you need to do. But ultimately, and that's where you really, move to the third thing I'll say, which is set up your day to win. What is the most important work that must happen in the morning, then in the late morning, and then in the early afternoon before the day gets away on you? I mean, I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or a weekend. I've just conditioned my identity as a high performer to get up and do things that average people aren't willing to do. So I'll get up, I'll use the restroom, and I immediately have a glass of water with lemon, because that gives me a shot of alkalinity. From there, I'm into my meditation chair for 20 minutes, and I meditate. From there, I do a light workout in my home gym for 30 minutes, maybe some weights or some stretch bands or some cardio, and then I'm ready to work on the most important things that are going to help me to win my day. And what's great about that is it compounds, because if you do that every morning, and you don't have to get up as early as me, I'm a little crazy, but you got to think about, where could you get this benefit where now time compounds for you? So you don't just win the day, you win the next 2 days, then you win the week, then you win 2 weeks, then you win the month. Because if you do this every single day and you approach time management from a different lens, can you imagine what you're able to accomplish over a quarter or half a year or even a full year? So I know that's a lot, Dev, but does that, satiate you in terms of some things you and the listener can do to get that moving in that direction?